tuning into 660 on that AM dial. That quote comes from King Falls AM, a podcast that imitates a radio show in a small town where everything's not as it seems. There are many fictional radio shows in the world of podcasting, like Welcome to Night Vale and The Black Tapes, but these fictional podcasts are not the only place where the news can get a bit wild. With all this fake news floating around nowadays, it's hard to tell the fact from the fiction, but this isn't a new problem. Radio's history has been riddled with hoaxes, and today I'll be describing 3 of them to you. We'll start off by tuning into Orson Welles' infamous broadcast of War of the Worlds. Stay tuned to hear about I, Libertine, the best-selling book that didn't exist. And finally, we'll cut to commercial to learn about the Plant Mall ad campaign. So don't touch that dial. Let me set the scene for you listeners. The date is October 30th of 1938. You turn on the radio, listen to some classical music, when suddenly it's interrupted by a news bulletin about an alien invasion in progress. You'd be terrified, and rightfully so. But if you tuned in just a few minutes earlier, you would have heard that it was actually the Mercury Theater on the air performing a live adaptation by Orson Welles of the classic piece of literature War of the Worlds of H.G. Wells. No relation. Orson Welles wanted to bring realism to this, so he made it in a series of broadcasts. According to the video, the broadcast that terrified a nation, posted by Insider Mind, Orson Welles instructed the lead actor, playing the reporter, to use the Hindenburg disaster as inspiration when saying his lines, to add an even thicker layer of realism. Unfortunately, his plan worked a little bit too well when the next day, the newspaper headlines were all about mobs in the streets, people leaping off of buildings, and general mass panic. However, this mass panic that the broadcast is so well known for today may not have been as massive as we've been led to believe. According to a C.E. Cooper survey conducted over the phone the night of the broadcast, a measly 2% of listeners were even tuned into the Mercury Theater on the air that night. That doesn't account for anyone who may have left their house and was unable to answer the phone, but it's estimated that less than 50 people did that type of thing in fear of aliens. So why did the papers lie? Well, they wanted the general public to stop trusting the radio as a source of news and come back to the newspaper. And with readers come advertisers, so in the end, it's all about the money. Now that we look back on it, this hoax is a lot more fake than we might want as a first thought. Our next segment is about I, Libertine, the best-selling book that didn't exist. According to the University of Tulsa, this hoax started in April of 1955. New York radio DJ, Jean Shepherd, was fed up with people pretending to be scholars by following whatever the latest fads were at the time, decided by the famous lists, like the New York Times best-selling list. So, with the help of his dedicated fans, which according to hoax.org he referred to as night people, they came up with a plan to smoke out the phonies. Together, they created the fake book titled I, Libertine by Frederick R. Ewing. Shepherd then instructed the night people to go out to their local bookstore and ask about the book. The thought was that if enough people asked about it, those not in on the plot would think that it was real and start to pretend that they'd read it too, just to fit in, therefore smoking themselves out as a phony. This worked surprisingly well, and the high demand of I, Libertine in bookstores led to it getting on the New York Times best-selling list, despite not having sold a single copy. Many absurd stories came about because of this book, one of which came from a college student who told Jean Shepherd that he'd wrote an essay for his English class titled F.R. Ewing, an eclectic historian, where he not only quoted the fake book, but also fake BBC interviews with the author, and got a B+ and a note saying that he'd done superb research. The college student then told Shepherd that he was afraid his whole education might be phony. Everyone fell for this, from professors to bridge players. That was until 16 months later when a reporter approached Shepherd about breaking the news. And then the next day, on August 1st of 1956, the Wall Street Journal headlines were all about I, Libertine and how the night people had tricked everyone into thinking that it really existed. After so much discussion was brought up about this book, a publishing company approached Shepherd about making it a reality. And according to the video, this best-selling novel was a total hoax posted by Austin McConnell. Jean Shepherd said yes, but he made sure that all the proceeds went to charity. Thank you for staying tuned so far, listeners, but now it's time to cut to commercial and learn about the Plant Mall ad campaign. Unlike the other 2 hoaxes I've talked about so far, this was not a nationwide phenomenon, but that did not stop it from having an important impact. According to the Cincinnati The Inquirer's article titled Ads for Fake Plant Malls Stir Controversial Laughter by Jeff Sussex, This hoax started in the fall of 1984, when a large supermarket came into town and spent a lot of advertising on TV and in the newspapers, and absolutely none in radio. That really frustrated the president of the Radio Broadcasters Association of Greater Cincinnati. So he asked Jay Galvin to come up with a plan to show that advertising on the radio could be effective. Galvin then asked Jay Gilbert to assist him in this quest, and they came up with a plan to advertise fake products to show how effective